This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, we'll look into the Farm Bill, but what's looking back? And do you know a DICP from an ARC? And crop insurance used to be easy to understand. Keywords, used to be. Hang on to your farmer's cap. That and more on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. Well, out of the depths of the Senate Agriculture Committee emerged the Agricultural Reform, Food and Job Act of 2012, aka the 2012 Farm Bill. My guess is what showed up on the Senate floor will not be what emerges when they vote on the bill. And then again, who knows what the House will do. But it's all at least an attempt, and at least that's progress. The bill itself is massive, covering what's supposed to be a comprehensive plan to guide, support, and grow the food system that our country needs. It covers sugar production and conservation stewardship programs. It deals with nutrition, international food aid, and it even stops lottery winners from getting food assistance. Forestry, rural development, and research are all included. That, and it was supposed to cut $23 billion from the deficit. But the area that is getting the most attention from farmers deals with commodity programs. Later, we'll talk to Marcia Berngen about the direct payment issues, but first we have a report from Todd Gleason about the proposal to change the way crop insurance is used to manage farmers' risk.
The United States Government Accountability Office, otherwise known as the GAO, released a report on crop insurance earlier this year. It suggested two ways to save money on the federally subsidized crop insurance program. Congress reported the GAO could consider limiting the subsidy for premiums that an individual farmer receives each year, or reducing the subsidy for all farmers participating in the program. Of course, it could do both. With the Farm Bill debate raging in Congress, the ag economist at Illinois wondered what would happen if the GAO's recommendations were made law and the limit was set at $40,000.
The farm sizes that hit that limit were 1,600 acres in 2011 up to 2,700 acres in 2010. So something in the 1,600 to 2,700 acre farm size, grain farm size, would begin hitting those limits. That varied by year because projected prices varied by year, and that influences premiums.
Those farm sizes are bigger than the average in the state of Illinois, but not by much. The average grain farm is about 1,200 acres. Limiting the insurance premium would mean the farmer would bear the entire cost of the premium for acres insured over the subsidy limit, in this case $40,000. Such a limit would change the influence of crop insurance.
There's a couple things about that. So far, the Risk Management Agency has been pretty size neutral in its programs. This would not be. It would limit the risk program to larger farms, and you know there are differential impacts of that $40,000 limit. Areas that have more risk would have lower acreage limits because their premiums are higher.
That's not just in Illinois. The change, if considered and enacted by Congress, would make it much more difficult and costly to insure marginal farmland. For University of Illinois Extension, I'm Todd Gleason.
And with me now is Marcia Berngen. She's an instructor at Lakeland College whose specialty is ag business. And I tricked her. I gave her a really hard assignment this week. I asked her to come and help describe to me what's in the new Farm Bill.
And if only there was an easy way to do that.
I know. That's why I asked you and not me.
Wonderful.
Okay. The Farm Bill, it expires when?
It expires at the end of September this year.
Okay, so after the end of September, a new Farm Bill has to be in place, or should be in place, correct?
Sure, or they have the option of extending the current one to buy themselves a little time.
Okay, and for somebody who doesn't understand, what is the Farm Bill and and what does it try to cover?
The Farm Bill is a huge set of federal legislation. It covers everything from forestry to nutrition programs. In fact, about 3/4 of all the money spent on Farm Bill legislation is for nutrition programs like SNAP, school lunches, and things like that.
Okay.
But the part that I think is the most relevant in this area to our local farmers is the commodity programs in the Farm Bill.
I think you might be onto something there. Okay, so the commodity program legislation, what's going on with that part of the Farm Bill?
Sure. So under the current legislation, we have two big programs that fall under the commodity area. We have the Direct and Countercyclical Payment Program, which is a mouthful.
Yes.
And then we have the ACRE program, which was just introduced in 2008.
Okay, what are the difference between the two?
Sure. So the Direct and Countercyclical Payment Program provides payments to farmers based on historic production levels on their farm.
Okay.
So it allows them the ability to respond to market signals. For example, if the market is saying we need more soybeans because of strong demand in China, then you can produce more soybeans without risking losing your government payments, which are meant to help stabilize farm income while allowing you to respond to market signals.
Okay.
And the ACRE program, which is the newer part, is a revenue-based program. And so it comes in with payments if revenue falls below a certain level.
Okay, so that was part of the agricultural safety net that was designed to help farmers at least some fiscal security,
Correct.
depending on things they cannot control.
Correct.
Okay, so the new bill that just came out of the Senate and probably is being picked apart by 14,000 crows right now.
At this very moment.
At this very moment. What does it say?
Sure. So the new bill replaces the Direct and Countercyclical program and the ACRE program with a new program called Agriculture Risk Coverage.
Okay.
And it acts a little bit more like crop insurance.
Okay.
And so it is based not on historic production levels, but it's based on actual planted acres in a given crop year. And so if revenue on a farm or in a county falls below a certain target level, and these target levels are calculated based on 5-year Olympic averages with
Okay.
yields and prices. Yeah, I know, it gets very complicated. If you fall a certain amount below those targets, then you receive a government payment for the difference.
Okay, so the farmer has to keep track of countywide averages, his historical averages, and what happens then?
Well, actually, the farmer is responsible for reporting his own acres and yield to his county FSA office every
Okay.
year. And then there are mechanisms in place to keep track of county level and things like that. Part of
Okay.
compliance with these programs includes reporting your plantings and your harvestings
Okay, so-
to your county office
So
every year.
if you're going to want to participate, you report every year so
You
they
do.
keep track of the numbers.
That's right. You provide the information, you certify that it's correct.
Okay, what was the benefit of going this way?
Well, in this current economic climate, where the government is always looking at ways to reduce expenditures
Right.
and try to close the gap on deficits, and we're in an agricultural economy where land values are high, crop prices are high. The Direct and Countercyclical Payment Program, the direct part of that, has guaranteed a payment to farmers every year, regardless of actual commodity prices.
Okay.
Not only that, but it's based on historical production levels, not what they're producing right now.
Okay.
So politically, that just doesn't play well in the media. You're
Right.
looking for a way to stabilize farm income, but you're providing corn payments for farmers who aren't necessarily producing corn. And even when we have $7 corn, there's still these direct payments going out. And
Okay.
so this new way, should this be the one that gets signed into legislation, and that's anybody's guess right now, it is going to enable the government to move away from that guarantee every year and only make payments when actual revenue based on actual production levels fall.
Okay.
And so it'll reduce federal expenditures most likely.
Okay, I imagine there's some horse trading going on in Congress, in the Senate right now. Southern states versus Western states versus Midwestern states, that sort of thing. Are there regional benefits to various programs that we should be thinking about?
Well, since we're in this part of the world, I'm not very on top of, for example, programs related to rice and peanuts and cotton.
Right.
I know the current form of the new Farm Bill has a program that's specifically geared for cotton, for example. I just haven't read into it very much yet.
Okay, so what should we be looking for and towards? I mean, how often should we be paying attention to what's going on? And if we have concerns, I know they had public hearings in Galesburg about a month ago. I know the lobbyists are probably lined up outside the door and around the block in Washington.
Sure.
But if we do have concerns, what should we be looking for?
Well, if your concern is trying to reduce the federal deficit and reduce federal spending, then not only are they limiting or reducing the amount of payment that'll be made, but this new system also reduces the total eligibility that an individual has for payments. For example, under the direct and countercyclical program, one individual could get up to $40,000 a year in direct and up to $65,000 a year in countercyclical payments. In one given year. Now, countercyclical payments are only made when crop prices are low, and so in our area, it's been very rare that those payments have been made. They've been made quite a bit in the South with cotton and peanut crops in particular. The new program, the thing that they've proposed, caps it at $50,000 per person per year. Period. So there's a reduction. Another thing is they're tightening the income limitation to qualify for the program.
Okay, that means what?
Okay, that's a great question. It gets very complicated, doesn't it? So under the existing programs, one individual could have up to $750,000 in 3-year average adjusted gross farm income, and up to $500,000 in 3-year average adjusted gross non-farm income to qualify for these programs. The current proposal combines all income, farm and non-farm, and caps it at $750,000 adjusted gross income, 3-year average period to qualify for the program.
Okay, so that really affects farms that tend to average on the bigger side, doesn't it?
That would affect mainly large farms and also individuals who have a good deal of non-farm income in addition to their farm income.
Okay, so the CEO who has an acre to a farmland is not going to benefit.
Most likely that will not help him, yes.
Okay, so it's tricky.
Yes.
It's complicated and it's new. Okay. Is it heading in the right direction, do you think?
Well, it is definitely, as I said before, a hard political sell to maintain a program of guaranteed payments in a time when commodity prices are so strong. You can't count on this upward trend lasting forever.
Every bubble eventually bursts. That includes the farmland and the corn prices and everything else.
The nice thing with this revenue guarantee, though, is that it's meant to help stabilize farm income, being a revenue guarantee. If revenue were to plummet because of either low yields or low prices or some combination, then this agriculture risk coverage program would cover some of that gap. You could ask 5 people and get 5 different opinions on what's good and bad.
Well, that's why I don't have 5 people here right now.
Sure.
Okay. Well, Maria, thank you so much for helping us out here today. It's a confusing mess.
It's a little messy, yes.
Okay. And once things come into focus a little bit more, I probably would like to have you come back and talk about now what.
That sounds great.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Maria talked about the change from the direct payment system to the ARC program. Todd Gleason interviewed Gary Schnitke again and asked Gary to crunch the numbers and see how this would affect a typical Champaign County farmer.
Gary Schnitke, farm management specialist at the U of I, is in studio with us to talk about what these ARC payments might be and how they're computed and what it would mean for an Illinois farm. You took a look at Champaign County, Illinois as an example. Explain first the ARC payment system.
Yeah, ARC is a revenue program where farmers make a choice between a county program or a farm level program. County program would use county yields, farm program would use farm yields. We looked at the county program and looked at how ARC would pay, and again, it's a revenue program under different price scenarios for corn. So we looked at it at hitting an average price of $4.50 for 2013 through 2016, or what we would consider close to the long run price. A $4 price, a $3.75 price, and the $3.75 price kind of looks at the late 1990s or a stressful period, and then a $3.55 price, just look at something pretty low.
It uses Olympic averages for a couple of items?
Yes, the way ARC works is it calculates revenue, and revenue is an Olympic average of 5 years of yields and 5 years of national prices. Right now, that Olympic average price would be in the 480 range. And an Olympic average throws out the high and the low and averages the middle three values. And yields would depend on the county or the farm situation.
And when you do that, if you look forward and put those numbers into a spreadsheet, what do you find that payouts might look like in, I suppose, years where payouts would come?
Yeah, but 450, a price of 450, and we looked at yields close to average. So average yields, 450 price wouldn't generate payments, and we begin to generate payments in our example around $4.11 per bushel. A $4 price over several years would generate minimal payments of $18 in the first year, $14 in the second year, $8 in the third year, and nothing after that. So that would be what a $4 price would do. A $3.75 price would generate a payment of $54 in the first year, and then it would decline to $41 and $35. And again, that's saying that the $3.75 price would last several years in a row.
And effectively, this is a revenue assurance program based on revenue per acre, and then there's a range that it protects, right?
Yeah, so it's a revenue program that calculates a benchmark revenue using those Olympic yields and prices. It covers a loss that begins at 89%, so there's a 11% deductible, if you will, 89 down to 79%, so it covers in a 10% range.
Why not further down than that?
The thought is that if you go down further than that, crop insurance will begin to make payments. So those percentages, 89 and 79, were selected to sort of provide protection against multi-year price or yield or revenue declines, and not overlap too much with crop insurance.
And it is designed to fade out if prices remain low.
That's correct. And again, that occurs because benchmark revenue is based on Olympic average revenue, so as we have more years of low prices, that Olympic average price goes down, and so does benchmark revenue.
I don't know about you, but it's about as clear as mud right now. Thank goodness there is other stuff that is going on, and with that news is Monica Becker. Monica?
Thanks, Fred. I'm Monica Becker. The USDA released this week's statewide crop report, and it's reporting the obvious. Wet conditions slowed planting this week, with parts of our area receiving over 2 inches of rain. But what's a little rain? Farmers statewide and in our area continued to make progress. Corn planting is almost completed, with 89% of planned corn in the ground as of May 6th, as opposed to 27% last year and the 5-year average of 47%. And while that is great, it's not the record pace that we thought it might be. In 2010 and 2005, 91% of the corn was in the ground by this date. However, the percent of corn emerged is highest in the last 10 years. 64% of corn plants have broken the ground. Statewide, 21% of soybeans have been planted and 7% have emerged, outpacing last year's and the 5-year average by quite a bit. And with fast-growing plants comes another pest warning. The Illinois Cooperative Agriculture Pest Survey is suggesting that farmers begin to scout their emerging cord seedling for signs of leaf feeding and cutting by the black cutworm. There was a significant number of moth flights in late March and early April, so the larvae might be ready to move to the cutting stage. And now you can send your kids out to scout for the pests. The Department of Labor withdrew the child farm labor rules that had been under review last week. The rule changes considered were proposed to remove teens from hazardous occupations. The concerns raised by the Farm Bureau and other agriculture groups were that these regulations would make it much harder for children of farmers to help out around the farm, as well as limiting farm activities, ag education, and part-time work for teens. The Department of Labor indicated that it would continue to exempt children on farms owned and operated by their parents. Good news for farmers, not so much for farm kids. And where are those family farms? The USDA has created the Atlas of Rural and Small Town America website. The site is designed to help businesses, researchers, and the curious to better use the economic, demographic, environmental, and social information that has been gathered on rural America. On the site, you can view county-level maps for over 50 different socioeconomic indicators. Can it locate the mom of the year? It can, if it can find Martinsville. Monsanto announced the regional finalists for their America's Farmers Mom of the Year, and Sherry Lynn Canmaker is the Midwest regional winner. The winner will be determined by online voting and will be announced on Mother's Day. So way to go, Sherry. And not to nag, but Sunday is you-know-what. So sneak out and get her something, even if she's not your mother. Just saying. And that's the news. I'm Monica Becker.
Here at Eastern Illinois University, it's gotten very quiet. Graduation went off without a hitch and summer session hasn't begun yet. So it's actually kind of lonely around here. It won't be long before schools in your area let out for the summer and the kids' favorite time of year begins. Cameron Craig looked into the past to find out just how and why farming helped make the school year look like it does in this week's Under the Four Rivers Sky.
Before the Weather Channel, National Weather Service, and when not everyone had a thermometer, people wrote about the weather in their personal journals and diaries. For my thesis, my objective was to sift through daily journal entries looking for any weather descriptors or actual temperatures the author wrote down. While reading every entry for every day, I was immersed in the daily functions of the author's life. I learned about how one author soothed their child's sore throat by giving them turpentine, or calm an upset stomach by giving a dose of tar. Interesting, right? But I also learned about the school year from one author who was a school teacher one part of the year and a farmer the other part of the year. William Scudder of Indianapolis lived during the early to mid-19th century. As I began to read the first page of his diary that began in the summer, I learned about his daily tasks as a farmer. He wrote what he did on a particular day and recorded the costs of hay, feed, equipment, and so much more. As the entries turned from summer to fall, his focus was on the upcoming state fair and harvest. You are probably picturing the state fair as an end to the summer event, just before school begins. However, the state fair in the 19th century was actually in October and sometimes in September. Harvest also occurred around that time as well. Mr. Scudder's diary then shifted from how well the harvest went to preparing for the new school year. School started in late October or November? At first I was confused and found that other authors' diaries stated the same situation. The school year began in the late fall. I was interested in this because I always thought school started in late August, but I got to thinking about that time in history. Farmers needed every hand possible to work the land and complete the daily tasks of the farm. This included their children. Children having to do hard farm work probably looked forward to the harvest season, but at the same time probably dreaded the idea of having to begin schoolwork, not to mention having to walk to school uphill both ways. During the school season, children probably had to wake up very early to take care of the livestock or collect wood to keep the home warm. It is also during this time that the father and mother concentrated their efforts on fixing up the dwelling or catching up with old friends. As the winter season began to show signs of dwindling, with the first buds bursting forth, the focus of the farmstead turned to preparing the fields for planting. The school season was wrapping up so that all available hands could begin their planting season tasks. The school year was based on the growing season. School ended when it was time to prepare the fields. School began when the last grain was harvested, a time different from today when many farmers use farm equipment to work the land with fewer hands. Someday in the future, I would like to survey the children of today to see how they would view the school season a century and a half before their time. I am sure some answers would include, would I be able to text my friends or update my status on Facebook? There is so much more we can learn from those before us. Whether it is from a diary left in the trunk of artifacts, or just a sit-down discussion with a wise grandmother or grandfather. We all would gain a different perspective of what life was like before us. Take time to listen to those wise old stories, because one day you will be the storyteller for the next generation.
Maybe they can market this as self-serving fruit. Watermelons have been bursting by the hundreds in eastern China after farmers gave them overdoses of growth chemicals during the wet weather, creating what the state media calls fields of landmines. It appears that about 20 farmers around the Berngen city in Jiangsu province are affected, losing up to 115 acres of melon, according to China's central television. Prices over the last year prompted many farmers to jump into the watermelon market. And all those with exploding melons apparently were first-time users of the growth accelerator. It was probably applied too late in the season and in too wet of a condition, causing the fruit to swell and fruit salad. Now, if they did that with coconuts, there would be a shell of a problem. Well, next week we have our monthly area crop survey. Wonder what the guys are going to report. Until then, work hard, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. I'm Fred Peralta, and thanks for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report.